Alright guys, today we're going to be looking at whether or not the essential question for this is, was the French Revolution a success or a failure? What do you guys think? We're going to analyze the picture. There's a lot of bloodshed here. There's a lot of comparisons that you can make between our revolution, their revolution, how their revolution went a little crazy, and ours is a little bit more, well, actually worked. In review, the National Assembly established a constitutional monarchy, but was not making changes fast enough for some, so things didn't go quite as well as they wanted to. Republic was established by radicals who wanted to completely abolish the monarchy and those who wanted to threaten the revolutionary idea. Directory was created as a reaction to the terror of the Republic, but it was corrupted and ineffective, and Napoleon Bonaparte would capitalize on the uncertainty that exists to make himself ruler of France. Bonaparte was sort of the man of this time period. Things got a little crazy, so because they got crazy, Napoleon was able to step in and offer stability in a time where stability wasn't necessarily there. The rise of Napoleon, remember, he's sort of the man. He's actually a Corsican. He's 20 when things broke out, 9 years old, went to France to train for a career in the military. So think about this, at the age of 9, he was already starting to train for a career in the military. The French Revolution made many military generals heroes. Napoleon was one of the ones. He was at the storming of the council, the tennis court oath. He was one of the ones that was there. 1799, he became a political leader with help of military success. He was one of those guys who was smart enough to know that you only told about the good things. You only let the good things go out, and the bad things you just necessarily try to hide up a little bit, and you didn't let people hear about it. Napoleonic France, he had a military takeover in France. So this is called a coup d'etat. And I know it's a fun word to say, and this is also keywords. I want you guys to know the coup d'etat is a military takeover. He established a consulate with himself as first consul. Remember this from the old Roman time periods. Rule as if he were a dictator with support of the people. He was voted in. As power. France accepts takeover, and people wanted peace and stability. They signed a treaty. Britain, Russia, and Austria. They ended the war in Europe at the time period, and they drew up a new constitution. This is where you have the vote of the people to approve Napoleon as leader, and it gave all the power to Napoleon. The word for the vote of the people for this one is a plebiscite. Now this is another vocabulary word that you're probably going to need to know, just FYI. Reforms is the first thing he did is got rid of corruption. This is a good thing. He started a lycée. This is government-run public schools to train officials. In other words, public schools. They actually wanted people to know what they were doing rather than just get thrown into a certain spot because of. Economics, he controlled prices, fair taxation, national banks, built roads and canals. He actually did a lot of really good things. He was a little crazy, but he was very well thought of. He improved relations with the church, allowed religious freedom, something we should have done a long time ago, but people are idiots and don't ever want to do. Immigrants were allowed to return if they took an oath of loyalty. So he just wanted people to be loyal servants. We do this today. We take a lot of this from today. And peasants were allowed to keep land bought during Revolution. One support across class lines. He made everyone happy, which is a big, big point. Napoleonic Code is his law code. It unified the French system of laws. It limited liberty and individual rights, promoted order, took away many rights of women, and restricted freedom of speech and press. But it includes some Enlightenment ideals. It basically was a good law code, and this is the reason we like the Napoleonic Code is it was a uniform set of laws after a lot of instability, and even though it took away rights from a lot of people at the time period liked it because it was in stone. It was something that was there. You didn't have to worry about it, and you could sit there in advance. And religious toleration is a really big thing because of all the religious wars that have been going through. As an emperor, he was voted in as emperor. The people did vote for him to take over. And he did want to reassert France's power in the world. He did want France to be a national power again after the exploration of the colonies. He began his campaign to gain and control territory, and he started a new alliance form against France. There's a picture of him getting crowned. Napoleonic Wars, he's annexing, he's going to take over a lot of Europe. He's going to take over a lot of Europe. France and Britain hate each other. Britain's got a huge navy. These guys are going to fight back and forth. Basically, Napoleon hates the British. He hates them. He just wants to kill them all. These guys, they don't care what they're like. These guys are just natural combatants. Napoleon wants to go over, take over everything, but the Battle of Trafalgar is a naval battle between England and France is defeated. So in short, Napoleon started giving up on his hopes at that point to invade Britain and take over. A continental system was established. This was a plan to defeat Britain by controlling trade with Europe. Started a blockade of Britain yet again. Britain had a huge navy, and they controlled the seas, and so they just sort of did what they want to, and this sort of begins, and Napoleon sort of outreaches. He didn't have enough reach there, didn't have enough military power to actually do what he's trying to do, and so the plan is going to be costly against Napoleon. He is going to redraw Europe's map due to effective strategies. He's able to move troops quickly, constantly changing battle plans. No one really knew what he would do next. He was a little out there, but he had some good ideas. Forceful diplomacy. He would put his friends in power so that they would go back and go with him, and if you didn't go along with him, he would force allegiance with you. Success created feelings of nationalism in France and conquered areas because these guys started going over. They didn't want to be part of France, or French people wanted to be by themselves. They started looking at those nationalist ties that we talk about. Remember the Olympics, every country has a certain, or everybody has a certain cultural imprint or cultural togetherness, and that's why sometimes people pull from countries that are outside your own country. This is the map during the Napoleonic era. You see how the map is completely redrawn. This is on the PowerPoint right above me, so if you want to take some more time to look at it, go for it. The Peninsular War is where France gets in a fight with Spain because they just like fighting. Portugal ignored the continental system. They must be punished, so they spend an army through Spain to attack. Spanish towns got ticked off because these guys were rolling through Spain, and he replaced the Spanish king with his brother because that's what people do when they're in power. The guerrillas start to attack, and the French troops are going to lose 300,000 troops, and this is, yet again, weaken the French Empire. They're trying to do too much. They don't have the abilities to do what they can do. People aren't going to put up with a lot of crap. They'll put up with toleration, they'll put up with moderation, but they're not going to put up with you attacking and taking over. Well, Napoleon wants to take over another area, so he goes after Russia because Russia didn't want to trade with Britain, so he gets ticked off, so he decides to invade. Russia's got a lot of people, they got a lot of cold, and they know how to handle both. So they said, hey, screw it, we're all going to bring our people inside, you're not going to have anybody take over, and they're going to develop the scorched policy, which is where they burned everything in the tracks. This is so that Napoleon's troops weren't able to eat, drink, or have shelter during the time period. The only things they had with them were what they took on their back. And usually at this time period, you go into a town, you take over, you take some of the supplies out, and you go to the next town. They didn't have those towns to go through. By the time they make it to Moscow, winter sets in. Winter in Russia is cold. Watch Rocky IV. Watch this thing where he's going up the mountain. You'll know what I'm talking about. The troops are starving. Their troops are freezing, and so they turn back. There is the map up to Moscow. This is cold. I mean, when you talk about cold, that is cold. A lot of people died that were French revolutionary soldiers at this time period, so Europeans took advantages of Napoleon and his weakened state and formed an alliance, and they all attacked and defeated Napoleon in 1814. He's sent to exile on the island of Elba, which is a really cool island. It's off the coast of Italy, but he's sent to exile in sort of like a prison because he's still considered a blue blood, and you don't kill blue bloods, but you sit there and just do something else with him. He came back for 100 days because French people missed him. They brought him back. And Napoleon came back, and they all Allies met Napoleon at Waterloo. It's a town in Belgium. There, he's defeated by the Duke of Wellington. He's sent into exile again into St. Helena, and he dies there probably because of poisoning that was in the paint systems. Congress of Vienna comes around, and this is a huge theme because what they did is France was surrounded by strong nations. All the monarchs were restored to the original thrones. Nations recovered lands that were lost, and a concert of Europe was established, promised to aid each other if another revolution occurred. This has started the schoolyard battle where people start taking up for one another. This was bringing up a lot of things to France that shouldn't have been doing so. They divided the nations line. This started feelings of nationalism, and this started redrawing the lines and gave the monarchs back what too much power. So at the end of this, we've got a couple of questions we need to figure out. Was the French Revolution a success or failure? The goal was to make society and government more equal and give the people more liberty. Did that really happen? The goal was to create a republican form of government based upon Enlightenment ideals that we've looked at. Did this happen? Why or why not? Thank you guys, and you'll see me in the next video.